Thanks everybody for joining us. It's going to be another great Ninja session. And we do have a special guest that Carma will introduce now.
I get to do all the introductions. So this morning we are so excited on this sunny day, the sun's finally coming out, yay, to have with us the phenomenal Rick Sobin from East Lincoln Park. And he's joining us today to add all of his wisdom. So Rick, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about you for those who don't know you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rick Sobin, and I am the managing broker of the East Lincoln Park and our Gold Coast offices. And I have been with App Properties about 6 wonderful years.
Awesome. Thanks, Rick. Thank you for joining us today. We've got a great topic, and one that I know that as we talked about it, that you've got a lot of good insight into. So we're going to get started with the video in just a second. A couple of quick things I want to share first is where you can find all of the Ninja videos and everything from It's All About Love. So if you go to the agent app, so that is apppropertiesapp.com. And if you have it installed on your phone, great. If you don't, when you go there on your phone, it will ask you to install. You can also access it on the web like you're looking at here. There's a featured section on the left-hand side. And you can see it. It's the All About Love 2020 videos and collateral. It's also in the featured here when you're on your desktop. And when you click it, it literally has everything, every video. So you can see, it's taking a second to load, but you can see all of the videos. And there were questions about packets. All of the Ninja packets are always here in advance. So you can see here is the week 5 Ninja Accelerator packet. And then all the packets from past weeks. So that is where you can find all of the videos. And without further ado, let's get started, right?
Yep.
Cool. All right, here we go.
Hello and welcome to the Ninja Path. My name is Larry Kendall. I'm the author of Ninja Selling, and our goal is to help you increase your income per hour so that you can have a life. We focus on 3 success keys: your mindset, your skill set, and your actions. And this particular lesson is focused on your skill set. What is the question we are most often asked? How's the market? Whenever we're at a party or we're at an event, it's very common when people find out that we're in real estate, the first question they say is, well, how's the market? And I'm often asked by ninjas, well, how should I respond to that? What should I say? Well, first of all, we don't want to say anything. What we know of in Ninja, it's not what we say, it's what we ask. We need to be able to ask good questions. So this session is about what do you say or what do you ask when you're asked the question, how's the market? Let's start with Ford for a minute, the Ford questions. The F stands for family and friends. O stands for occupation. Very easy to ask about their family and friends. Very easy to ask how's business, how's everything at work. R stands for recreation. Very easy to ask, hey, what are you doing for fun? What are your plans for this weekend? Are you going to the party? Are you going to the game? And then, of course, dreams. Seldom when we ask somebody what is their dreams, but dreams is a category. You know, what are your plans for the weekend? Your daughter's graduating high school. What are her plans? So these questions are very, very easy to ask. And when we ask them, we need to be good listeners. And here's a tip on how to be a really good listener. One of our Ninja instructors, Peter Parneg, puts it this way: your next question is embedded in their last answer. So listen carefully to how they answer, and that gives you a clue as to what is your next question. It does a couple things. Number 1, it keeps the conversation rolling. And number 2, it forces you to listen to their answer. If you are going to make a statement, your favorite statement is, well, tell me more about that. So they're talking about work and you say, well, tell me more about that. They're talking about their family. Well, tell me more about that. And you keep the conversation rolling. Now, if you're at a party, and especially if you meet somebody that you've not met before, and it's very easy to start asking them Ford questions, it's a great way to build rapport. Ultimately, they realize you're asking about them. They feel they should ask about you. And they'll say, well, what business are you in? And if you say, well, I'm in the real estate business, almost always, what is the first thing out of their mouth? They'll ask the most asked question in real estate: how's the market? So how do we respond to that? Again, it's what we ask, not what we say. What I notice with many realtors is the way they answer that question, oh, I'm just so busy. this market is so hot, I'm just so busy. Why don't we want to say that? Because guess what? They may feel that we're too busy for them. They finally got the courage up to ask about the market. They may be interested in buying or selling, but we've just told them we are so busy. So don't get caught up in saying that. The second thing you don't want to say is there's no inventory. If you're in a market where the inventory is short, don't say that. Don't say there's no inventory, because you know what? There's always inventory, and we can always find inventory. And if they feel there's no inventory, there's no listings, they're going to be likely to just say, well, I guess I can't buy a house today. Instead, we would recommend that you say, what have you heard? Find out where they're coming from. So they say, how's the market? You say, well, what have you heard? Another thing to ask is, what part of the market are you interested in? You see, there are lots of different parts to the market. There's the first-time buyer market. There's the luxury market. There's the condominium market. There's the market in particular neighborhoods. There's the investment market. There's the commercial market. There's lots of different sub-markets. And they may be interested in, well, how's the market in my neighborhood? Or how's the market maybe in the neighborhood that they're thinking they would like to live in? So, great question. What part of the market are you interested in? Here's another question that fits in most markets. Maybe not all, but what we've observed is most markets around the country right now are experiencing a dual market. And many times they don't really understand it. They don't know what a dual market is. So you ask the question, have you heard of a dual market? And they'll almost always say, no, what is that? You say, well, that's where things are going on in the market, two different markets at the same time that are very, very different. So here's an example of a dual market in northern Colorado. Two of our markets are the Fort Collins market, the Loveland market. What we see is if you're buying a home in the $400,000 or under price point, it's a very hot market. There's only a 1.8 month supply of homes in Fort Collins, for example, and that's calculated from the time of listing to the time of closing. It usually takes about 6 weeks to put a contract together and get it closed. So if essentially in the 400,000 and under market, there's a real shortage of inventory. It's a very hot seller's market. But once you get up in the higher price points, in our market at 700,000 on up, it starts to slow down. And what we notice is above $700,000 in the Loveland market, there's almost a 2-year supply. Well, what does this mean? It means that somebody who's in a mid-priced home, say around $400,000, they could sell that home very quickly, probably with multiple offers, probably above list price. Turn right around and go into their dream home and be in the driver's seat in a buyer's market where they could negotiate probably a contract less than full price. They could probably negotiate great terms. And we have this going on throughout the country. In visiting with our ninjas, we have ninjas all over the US and Canada. Most of them are in dual markets. And most of them are spreading the word right now to their clients to let them know that opportunity exists. In fact, in my 44 years in real estate, this is the best move-up market I've seen, especially when you combine it with these low interest rates. So I've never seen a market that had a situation where you could sell your house so quickly and move up and buy your dream home at these interest rates. Our mission is to get that word out. So this is a great question to ask if they're familiar with a dual market. I was at a party last year, and there was a group of us standing in a circle with drinks in hand. And somebody at in that circle, someone I didn't know, asked the question, how's the market? There was another realtor in that group, and he took that bait like a big mouth bass. He couldn't wait to say, well, you know, there's just no inventory. And I watched the man who asked the question. I watched his shoulders slump, and you could tell he was defeated. I connected up with him later in the party, and I said, you know, you asked a question about the market earlier. What part of the market are you interested in? And he says, well, my wife and I are thinking with these low interest rates, this might be the time we could move up to our dream home. And I said, have you looked online? What kind of price range are you thinking? He says, I think to get what we want, we're looking at somewhere between $1 million and $1.2 million in price. Well, then I explained to him about the dual market and the fact that he could be in the driver's seat if he wanted to move up into that market. He got quite excited, and later that year we sold that young family their dream home for $1.1 million. Here was somebody who at that party felt that they couldn't buy a house because there was no inventory, but they could because we asked the right questions. What part of the market are you interested in? So how's the market is also an invitation to what? To do a real estate review for them. They'll be blown away by your level of listening to them and your level of customer service. If you're at a party and somebody just asks, how's the market? And a couple of days later, they receive from you a phone call and says, you know, you ask about the market. I've prepared what we call a real estate review. I've prepared a market analysis for you and would like to get together with you and go over it. They will be surprised and impressed. It's a great opportunity to do real estate reviews. You want to position yourself as the source of real estate knowledge. Asking these questions, providing this level of service will do that. So it's time for you to rehearse the question that you get, how's the market? Practice what we've taught you as far as your response. When you're asked, how's the market? You can say, what have you heard? You can ask the question, what part of the market are you interested in? Or you can ask the question, have you heard of a dual market? Rehearsal is the key. If you work the system will work for you, and we can show you the Ninja Path, but it's now time for you to walk it. Thank you for joining us for this lesson.
All right, welcome back. Rick, Carma, thumbs up on the video.
All right, we had a lot of stuff still rolling in, but before we go to takeaways, I'm going to do something different today. I'm going to ask Mr. Rick Sobin a quick question. So Rick, what is the end goal of talking about this, about learning and practicing how to respond to this ubiquitous question that we all get all the time? What is the end goal?
Well, it's pretty obvious. The question is such an amazing opportunity to do one thing, and that is get a new client. So, you know, by not answering the question and by opening up a dialogue, it's the number one way to create a new connection and end up with a new client. That's the end goal.
Have to unmute myself. Okay. I was trying to catch up on some of the last things in the takeaways. Thanks, Rick. All right, so let's just look at a couple things. There were a lot of responses, still a few coming in. So thank you everybody for the great engagement. We really appreciate the way everybody types stuff in and ideas and thoughts and comments. It's really a great way to make these webinars effective and a great learning experience for everybody because we all learn from each other. So a couple of things we had, I'm going to start at the beginning. I know I will have missed some, so Kevin and Rick will pop in at the end and cover what I missed. But we had Bridget saying, get others talking, right? So that's a really critical thing to do. Marcia commented, ask open-ended questions, right? That gives us the opportunity to get more information than we might have if we asked us a very specific question. Again, Michelle commented, and a number of others, not what we say, but what we ask. As you know, we've been talking about in this, it's all about love. I think one of Thad's videos was it's all about them. So when we ask questions instead of talk at people, we get information about the other person, and that gives us the ability to potentially gain a client, or at a minimum, we're building rapport with somebody because we're listening and we're asking about them and not just rattling off about the market. Let's see, when we say we're so busy, you've lost an opportunity. That was Donna. A lot of people said that the next question is embedded in in the person's last answer, right? So we're listening to what they say so that we can build on that instead of having some, automatic script that we're spewing out. Several people, lots of them said they liked that question, what have you heard, as a response. So when somebody asks you, how's the market, instead of starting to spew off all the statistics that saying, what have you heard? Lets you immediately understand where they're coming from, what their area of interest is, maybe what their focus is, et cetera. And a lot of people then commented, which part of the market are you interested in, which I really like. I think that's a great question because it covers not just geographic areas, and price points, but it also covers different types of real estate, right? If somebody wants to buy an investment property, and also, are you a condo person? Are you a single family home person? So a lot of different things we can get from that question. Janet commented trends are hyper local. So you want to find out what area they live in, and that there's nothing more true than that real estate is hyper local. A lot of people talked about the dual market being a great dialogue, including talking about different price points. And that's where we want to know our statistics, understanding kind of what's going on in our specific markets that we serve, and having a general idea in case you're talking to somebody that's interested in an area you don't know super well. And then the city versus the suburbs is another conversation that we can have along these lines. And last two comments I had, Sally said the best move up market is a great reason for outreach. And it sure is, right? And Stephanie chimed in with the dual market dialogue plus a move up and talking about selling fast and taking advantage of low interest rates to get that dream home, right? These are some great things to reach out to people about. So I don't know, what did I miss? Kevin, Rick, what'd you see?
I think you nailed it. One thing I want to throw in here is really think about how many times we're asked this question. So many times so that we can't, do you remember the last time you were asked this question, whether it was from family or friends or someone you were talking with? Because it comes up. And then I want you to think about that conversation and think about, Larry told the story how he saw this guy, his shoulders slump. Sounds dramatic. But in reality, think about how many times someone's asked you the question, you threw out, and instead of asking more questions, we talked. We went on a soapbox and talked about the market or a 2-minute keynote speech to them. They didn't ask us for a TED Talk, but we actually end the conversation because what are they going to say after that, right? So think about the last time that someone asked you the question and the conversation just sort of went dead after you answered the question, because I know I've experienced that too. So Rick, I know you've got some great thoughts, some good ideas that you want to share.
It's first off, it's one of the hardest things not to answer the question because we are told, this is part of the market. I feel this way about the market. I feel that way about the market. So we have all of these internal opinions of the market. So right when you're asked the question, it's a reflex to answer it. So the hardest part of this whole exercise is stopping yourself from answering the question. And if you do answer it, you have a 90% chance of giving the wrong answer. So really digging in and finding out what this person's goals are important. And one of the things I used to say to clients when I was selling is, when I got that question is, hey, it depends on what your real estate goals are. Are you in the market? Are you looking to sell? Are you looking to buy? Are you looking to rent? So what are your goals right now? And that the answers to those first few questions certainly kept the whole conversation going. But it's important to know that there may be a part of the conversation that you are going to have to answer and give an opinion on the market. So I don't want this to be all about never answering the question, but it just shouldn't be the beginning talking points, certainly. So I would also say when you do dig into answers, I would also not give blanket statements unless you've already done your research and you're absolutely sure about what's going on in the market. So if someone, for instance, the downtown condo market right now, we hear a lot that it is slow and things aren't selling. Have you actually looked at what has closed in the last 2 weeks? And if you've done that, I think it's okay to give an opinion. If you haven't, you can say, the last time I looked, this is what's happening, but let me dig in and get you some real numbers and get back to you. One of the most attractive things in real estate is knowledge. And people are it's the best way to get a client is, you are providing information and providing statistics that give meaning to what this person's goals are, and then they get very interested in what you're saying. But blanket statements with no true meaning behind them don't generally make you connect more with people. And one of the hardest things that I just can never understand is how someone will not take the time to learn InfoSparks. It is one of the easiest, most user-friendly programs out there, and you can be armed with knowledge and data and statistics every day in just a short period of time. So you have to learn that program. It will take you all of 40 seconds to learn it. I mean, I'm being dramatic. It will probably take you 10 minutes to learn it. But once you do, you can also create live links in that program. So you never have to do these searches again. You can save each search that you're doing. You have access to that data in real time. And now you are providing, you just have to know your market. You're providing real statistics and real data to people. So, those are some of my key takeaways is, doing the homework.
Those are great. I mean, yes, information is knowledge is power, right? And I agree. What you started with is how hard it is for us to not go on that diatribe, right? Stopping ourselves. One question that came up in the chat, and something I was thinking about too, is and Rick, what if someone asks us about a market we're not familiar with? So we're at a party or we're on the phone or someone says, hey, so what's going on in Highland Park? And I don't know because I work in Streeterville or the Loop or West Town, whatever it might be. What's your recommendation for that?
I would ask a few more questions. First off, is they asked about Highland Park. Are they selling in Highland Park? Are they buying in Highland Park? Are they renting in Highland Park? Or they want to buy a home for their kids? So you need a little bit more data first. And then I would say something like, I haven't pulled Highland Park statistics in the last 30 days. Let me grab your email real quick. I'll do some homework tomorrow and I'll just get back to you on that, because giving a blanket statement that might not be correct and it is an answer that they didn't want to hear, you're going to lose that opportunity. So being able to provide exact value without being too pushy, just providing statistics would be the key. That's what I would do. That's
really good. I like that response. And one of the things that came in that we were talking about earlier, when you mentioned, asking for their email and getting back to them, someone had mentioned, it might be awkward or they might feel pressure about it. But the way you just said it seems so natural. And I think as we go into pro tips, that's something that the first thing I want to share is each one of us has a pro tip. Everybody loves pro tips. Number one is practice. So Rick, as he says it, it sounds natural. He sounds calm. It doesn't sound pushy. Here's the deal. We talk about practice all the time. If you don't practice this, the next time someone asks you how the market is, you will speak. You will just talk. You won't ask questions. We have to make this natural. And to Rick's point, that the hardest thing to do is not speak. And it's interesting with Ninja, they say that if you follow the Ninja program, you will be successful. They say, however, if you are doing everything and you're still not successful, what they find most times is that we are talking too much, that we're not asking enough questions, that we're not attracting people to us because we're not asking questions. We're just talking. So my suggestion, my pro tip is practice. Larry said it in the video. Take these, have your family member, a colleague, whoever it is, ask you how the market is, and then you respond with questions. That's my pro tip. How about you two?
Right. Okay, so I am next on the list for pro tips. So my pro tip is going to be about something that we typically get asked questions during these about how to adjust for COVID, right? So this video, Larry's anecdote is about being at a party, drinks in hand, seeing all this interaction. We're not all at a lot of parties these days. So how do we change this approach, right, for COVID? And so what I would recommend is we have the great eCampaign tool. If you go into InfoSparks and you pull some data about a specific market and you have your farms created in your CRM for a specific neighborhood, area, community, whatever it might be, you can send out something and ask an open-ended question. You're providing some information, ask an open-ended question that relates to the data. So maybe you look up the busiest price point in that particular market and you say, hey, if you're thinking about selling anything in this price point, reach out because this is a great opportunity we've got low inventory or we've got fast moving inventory in this price point, great opportunity to move up, take advantage of low interest rates. There's something there for us to be able to reach out with using eCampaign and using a targeted approach where it's personal and you can kind of get that open-ended question going without being in person. So that is, which of course ties into Rick's comment that you got to learn InfoSparks. But what I would say is InfoSparks has great FAQs and a great tutorial. And I wouldn't say that about absolutely everything in MRED, but I will say that I do think that their FAQs are really helpful and their tutorial. It is really a great tool and everybody should be able to navigate it. So that is my pro tip for the day.
I love to talk. I could give about 50 more pro tips, but I'll keep it to just one or two. But I think one of my favorite pro tips is statistics are great and knowing markets are great, but they're really just helpful to keep the conversation going. They don't define the home though. Each individual home or unit is its own market. Where on the street is it? What's the floor plan? What shape is it in? And what is it priced at? That's the market. So, adding on to that is every single market can be defied. That home was perfectly fixed up. It was perfectly staged. It was perfectly priced. It will sell. So if anyone wants to give a blanket statement about a market, I guarantee you can pick any single home or unit in that market and defy it, right? Pricing it correctly and making it look perfect. So that's my other pro tip. Don't let the definition of a market, deter your ability to still sell a property, because it can always be overcome.
That's such a great point, especially thinking back to those of us that were selling in 2008, 9, 10, 11. It was terrible, but properties were selling, right? Properties were still moving. So great point. Every market can be divided. All right. Thank you, everybody. We really appreciate it. Sign up for the next week's sessions. So Monday is going to be at propertieslove.com, the live week 6 kickoff with Amy and I. And then Thursday, Carma and I will be back with another special guest. And you can register for that at propertiesninja.com. And Rick, thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge.
Thanks for having me on. Very fun.
Thanks, Rick.